people have emailed, and Michael Wilbon said, well, how come that word will be outlawed, but the word redskin won't? And it's interesting if you kind of juxtapose those words. They've kind of gone the opposite direction. The N-word was created on hate. And now some argue, well, it's a term of endearment. Redskins was initially created as a term of endearment, and now people think it's hate. In both instances, it's not really appropriate. I mean, you can say what you want about the Washington football name, but if you were starting a franchise today and that was suggested as a team name, and there was a bunch of people around a room, and somebody said in 2014, let's name them the Redskins, that wouldn't pass. That would not work. So it's not really an appropriate name, but it's embedded into the culture, and it's also the merchandising. Roger Goodell works for owners, okay? And they're not going to change the name of a team, and he's not going to be able to make them do that. That will come down to peer pressure. Congressional pressure, peer pressure, fan pressure, advertising pressure. But it's interesting, in both cases, it's an inappropriate word. The N-word came from violence and hate. Now many people suggest it's a term of endearment in the black community. Redskin was created as a term of power and pride and endearment. And now people believe, many believe it's a term that's derogatory. In both instances, this is a classic numbers game. Is that more people are outraged by the N-word, so therefore it will be eradicated. Whereas Redskin, fewer people are offended in the power base. How many governors? How many senators? How many major advertisers have somebody, perhaps Native American Indian, leading the way on this legislation? It's a numbers game. It happens in government. It happens with laws. Do you have the power? Do you have the backing? That's why you have celebrity endorsement now. But in America, where capitalism drives every bus, it is used in hip-hop music, and it is sold, and it's got a certain kind of popularity to it and a certain vibe when young African Americans use it. And our government lets it go. Corporate America lets it go. Those records get promoted by major corporate America. I find it repulsive. But as I said yesterday, I give my power of attorney on that word to Michael Wilbon and Jason Whitlock, and I'll let them argue over it, because I don't think I've really earned the right to an opinion on that. We're going through a time in America where, I was just reading an Alec Baldwin article yesterday, and he was talking about the downside to a public life, and everybody's got an iPhone, and everybody's paparazzi. The world's changing. What you could say years ago, you can't. What you could do years ago, you can't. Being a celebrity has changed. The public figure has changed. Everybody now in social media has an opinion. You can get a hold of the president, Jay-Z, Ryan Seacrest in 2 seconds on Twitter. And it's confusing to a lot of people. It's empowering to some. Gary, you're in the herd on ESPN Radio. Gary, go ahead.
Hey, Colin, I'm calling from North Carolina. As a member of the African American community, I can recall growing up, the N-word thrown around like candy as a youth. However, as you get older and get more mature, you realize it's not a positive word. As an adult, I have a friend used to call me in jest, hey, what's up my N? And I had to correct him through the time and say, hey, I don't appreciate that. Let's not do that. So now we say, what's up my buddy, or those kind of things. And I think it's through maturation, because to me it's a personal sin. I won't say that word. I think it's too derogatory and it's not a positive thing. I will tell you, Colin, that the census board has changed. I watched an episode of Sanford and Son a couple weeks ago, and he said it's more enough ends in this courthouse, you can make a Tarzan movie. So you could not do that now. I think it's a sensitivity. I think we as the African-American community owe it to ourselves to say, hey, it's too, we understand why you use it, but you need to understand that it doesn't need to be used because it's too much negative connotation associated with it.
Well, yeah, and that's what Jason Whitlock argued with Michael Wilbon on the Outside the Line special. As Jason said, there's too much baggage with it. There's too much violence linked to it. That was Jason's argument. Michael Wilbon said, I can call my friends what I want. It's a term of endearment. So as I said yesterday, the black community is divided on this. My opinion's irrelevant. The black community has to figure it out before I get an opinion. I mean, I wear Dockers. I'm a spectator. Nobody cares about my opinion on that word. When the black community can come to terms with what they view as appropriate, then we can discuss it. But having a strong opinion for me, I'll never use the word. I don't like the word. I find it divisive, cruel, and so I don't like it. What I find funny is how people are on both sides. They defend Redskin, but they're outraged by the other word. I mean, let's be honest. They're both inappropriate. By the way, I'm getting a lot of emails. Colin, you're saying the N-word and Redskins is the same. Then how can you say Redskins and not the other word? Well, we're saying they're both offensive and inappropriate. We're not saying they're equal. One is so deeply rooted in violence and in the history of this country that it's considered less appropriate. I mean, there's in this country, there's levels of murder, levels of homicide. They're all inappropriate. I mean, my son stealing lawn furniture from the neighbors is inappropriate. Killing the neighbor's cat is worse. He's done neither. But I'm saying, the point is, you know, when you say they're inappropriate, we're not saying they're even or equal. There's levels of all sorts of murders and crimes in this country. Not all but crimes are inappropriate, but there's levels of them. Sometimes before people push send, do they just think for a second? Like 3 seconds, 4 seconds before you push send.